Another day, another Psyop. Now we have a shooting taking place at the ICE facilities in Texas. The headlines read, Left Hate Leads to Murder. And of course, for anybody out there that's paying attention to these stories, none of them actually end up making sense. And this is done by design because this is what a psychological operation is. People are getting driven completely insane by these stories because they don't make sense. And they all have calling cards and it's all the same one after the other. These shooters end up risking their lives for no reason whatsoever. You would think maybe they had a personal vendetta against somebody who may have wronged them in their lives. They just go shoot innocent people and then they blow their brains out. Well, in this situation, they want to again make the ICE agents into victims. They're going to turn these people into national heroes through propaganda by convincing you that what they're doing is making America safe again, making the streets of America cleaned up again. But there were no ICE agents who were actually killed. Immigrants were supposedly killed in this shooting, and they could have told you that, hey, Jane Doe and John Doe were the victims. They might as well, because the story gets so fake. As we'll break it down in this video, there's actually even a tie-in with what they're calling Escalator Gate. If you haven't heard about Donald Trump at the United Nations, there's a direct tie-in with the escalators at the UN to this shooting in Texas. So this is as fake as it gets. And just remember the quote from William J. Casey. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. And that's the problem. They believe that these stories are actually real. The suspect, I kid you not, goes by the name Joshua John. They're not even trying to be creative with some of these names. Tyler, Robinson, Joshua, John. It's like they look around a room and they just go, what's the most ridiculous name we can come up with? Because these people will believe everything on the news is real. And instead of actually realizing that these are black ops operations that are carried out, in some cases they're just psychological operations that are carried out where nobody's actually shot and none of the victims actually exist in the first place. But because it's on the news, they're going to believe that it is actually real. So we may as well, one of these events, get George Glass as the actual killer because the names are just as fake as the actual story. So what we know is that Joshua John was found dead nearby. He went in, even though they tell you in that news clip he wasn't political at all during his entire life. He went in and he decided to open fire on people that he never met, hoping to hit ICE agents, but instead hitting the same people he was trying to protect. Because we see on his bullets, just like every one of these actual events, which shows you how fake it is, they write things like anti-ICE. Now, why do they write these things? Well, they write these things so that you can immediately identify the person as a Democrat or as a Republican. If you haven't noticed, that's what this psychological war is, this civil divide. So they can give you headlines about how anybody who votes Democrat is a murderer and a domestic terrorist, kind of like they did for the last 4 years, while telling you that anybody who was MAGA or conservative or a Christian was a domestic terrorist. And of course, they tried to lump in conspiracy theorists like ourselves into that. And like I said a million times, this is the seesaw effect. First, one side strips the other side of rights, then it goes back the other way. And they're motivated as ever to do it, not just because one of their heroes was falsely assassinated, but because they've been dealing with it for years and years and years. And I warned all the libs on YouTube who would flag my videos, who would do discords and tell everybody what timestamp to flag for hate speech. I warned them that this was coming for them eventually because this was the game the government was playing. And of course, those people ignored my warning. And instead of just turning off my channel, even though I'm not a Republican, I'm not a MAGA supporter, nor am I a Democrat, because none of it's actually real. Instead of heeding my warning, they continued to do it. And now they're seeing themselves get canceled because we're seeing MAGA completely insensitive to what's going on as far as free speech and human rights. In fact, it's getting so sick with MAGA, as I'll show you, that what they want to do in addition to going after Democrats is dox them, is publicly humiliate them, get them fired from their jobs, kind of like those people who were Democrats trying to get everybody fired from their jobs because they didn't want to poison themselves a few years ago. So some of the other tie-ins here, again, the bullets, the no clear motive starter kit. I thought this was hilarious, right? No clear motive, but they want you to know their motive because they write it on their ammunition and then they don't live to tell a story. They just kill themselves for no reason whatsoever. We're getting it with every single psyop now. It's almost a 100% guarantee. And these people are so deep in the psychosis, they don't realize it. Since when do these people leave manifestos every time? Since when do they engrave political ideologies in the bullets? No, not since now. And then, of course, they come out immediately, the vice president, the police investigators, they say this was a politically motivated murder. And then you get all the talking heads on the conservative side saying we need to do something because the mental health problem with these people is off the charts, right? But don't forget, when they tell you about mental health, they don't want to directly tie these people into being trans. What the mental health is really about is conspiracy theorists, right? So conveniently, what did we get with Joshua John? Well, he left a map taped to the side of his car after he blew his brains out. That's right. And the map on the chart was radioactive fallout from nuclear detonations that have passed over these areas more than 2 times since 1951. So anyone who sees that is going to say, well, what does this have to do with the other? Well, this guy clearly has got mental health problems. He's believing it. He's talking about radiation from 1951, and he's taping it to the side of his car after he goes and shoots people. Well, a lot of these people who are into conspiracy theories, like blaming the government for a lot of the things currently going on with radiation exposure, those towers that are obviously all over the place, well, they have mental health problems. See, we can't forget that because the red flag laws, again, are not going to be used for transgender people. They're going to be used on conspiracy theorists because that's the only ones they want to get the guns out of the hands of are conspiracy theorists, people who won't comply with the coming global world order, or should I just call it what it really is, the AI governance, the rebuilding of the Tower of Babel, that Donald Trump is conveniently the one who is actually building out, but nobody's paying attention because they're stuck in these psyops. They're crying over Charlie Kirk, a character that they never met. Then stories like this come out, and you just hear them going on and on, Democrats are terrorists, they're terrorists, they're terrorists. Just like after January 6th, all conservatives were terrorists and insurrectionists, right? And none of these people realize that they're playing in the government's game. It is a game of psychological warfare. And again, we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false, and they believe that these news stories are actually real. So what we've gotten from there, which is a new calling card that the government's been using recently, is giving us the background on the families. Because then when you get the background on the feds, you get even deeper into the political ideologies, because Mom's posting all this stuff that's anti-gun and making threats to Republican congressmen. It fits the bill perfectly. But one of the strange tie-ins here that has to be mentioned, because this shows you how in our faces this is with the government and how they're just mocking us at this point. If you didn't hear about this, Escalator Gate. So Trump is alleging that he was sabotaged after he entered the United Nations yesterday, on the same exact day that this supposed shooting took place. His escalator stopped working. Well, what's the tie-in? Well, interestingly enough, in these articles about Sharon and Andy, the mom and dad of Joshua John, if you look at his LinkedIn page, Andy works for a company called Cone. 36 years and 2 months he's worked. And what do? Well, they design escalators, among other things. That's right. And if you go to the United Nations website, look at this. Subject, provision of maintenance services, preventative maintenance services, repairs, adjustments, and component replacements for elevators, escalators, and related apparatus at UN headquarters in New York. Who's the vendor name? Cone. Cone Inc. Right? So we have this bizarre escalator gate where everyone's making a big deal that Trump's escalator was shut off. And how about that for the government giving you a middle finger, telling you these people are in such a psychosis that they'll never even realize that all these characters have a direct connection to the UN. Now we can look at it and say, well, look, the father of the supposed shooter on the same day Trump's at the UN, the escalator stops working. His company, Cone, is responsible for the escalator. And then all the alt-right media investigating the escalator, sabotage, dark attacks on Trump inside the UN. Look at these clowns. MSNBC, these are stories that they're feeding people about escalators, escalator sabotage. This is how ridiculous it is. This is how deep the psychosis goes and how deep the left-right goes. And this is what they're fighting over now. Did they sabotage the escalator because Trump is an anti-globalist? Trump is as globalist as it gets. The New World Order is built on AI infrastructure. What is Donald Trump doing? He's building out massive data centers that they're going to use across America to bring in the surveillance state, aka the Golden Dome. Everything you say and do is going to be trapped and stored in these data centers, including your DNA, by the way. So that's what Donald Trump is doing while these people are fighting over escalator. Here's the clip if you didn't see it. This is how ridiculous this is and how upset they are. We'll prosecute people if they sabotage the escalator. This is how unhinged they are.
Was it sabotage? Did someone deliberately stop the escalator at the United Nations as President Trump and Melania wrote on it?
We have people, including the United States Secret Service, who are looking into this to try to get to the bottom of it. And if we find that these were UN staffers who were purposefully trying to literally trip up the President and the First Lady of the United States, well, there better be accountability for those people.
A London Sunday Times reporter says 24 hours before the incident, UN staff members joked that they may turn off the escalators so he has to walk up the stairs. I spoke with the Sunday Times reporter, Katie Balls.
One of the things I was hearing was what type of protest could they enact against the president? And it felt to me as though it was joking, this sense of, oh, we might turn the escalator off and make the president have to walk up the stairs.
And then it did stop. Were you shocked when you saw it?
It did seem like quite a strange coincidence.
The UN escalator jolted to a halt just 2 seconds after Melania stepped on it. Safety experts say it's actually dangerous to walk up an escalator that's stopped because if it starts moving again, you can easily fall over. Trump mentioned the incident 3 times in his address.
If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape.
United Nations officials are today pointing a finger at this guy, claiming he activated the emergency brake by mistake. A videographer from the U.S. delegation who was traveling backwards up the escalator may have inadvertently triggered the safety function. Do you chalk this up to a coincidence, or do you think this happened on purpose?
The truth is we just don't know at this point.
It's comical. I mean, it's comical. So that was a big story yesterday, the ICE shooting and Trump's escalator. And what a small world, right? What a small world that when they're telling us and we're all looking, okay, who's the shooter? Who's the mom and dad? What are their ideologies? Oh, well, the dad just happens to work for an escalator company called Cone, who just happens to be the vendor used at the UN. Yeah, it must be a huge coincidence, right? Trump was sabotaged at the United Nations. I mean, it is an utter joke. And from there, what do we see? Well, we see this is one of the newest things that the alt-right media is doing with these shills who, again, were brought in to replace the actual truth movement, people who are exposing all these news stories. That's what people forget. Is that in 2016, 2017, every truth channel would do breakdowns of these events as if they were fake or real and breaking down, okay, is it a psyop, is it a false flag? We know it's a government operation. You don't hear it anymore. That's what was scrubbed off the internet, the questioning of the news. And I can't emphasize it enough. That was the point of Alex Jones going to court and laying down in court. It's a scare tactic so that you don't question these stories on the news when easily Alex Jones or anybody else who's brought into court with the Sandy Hook parents can sit there and say, look, I didn't see any evidence. I didn't see anything. All I was told in the news is that these people died. Is there an investigation? No, because the shooter's dead. Oh, and then you bulldoze the school. You bulldoze the shooter's house. We would just like some real actual evidence. Well, you don't get evidence. Don't you see? If we tell you it happened, it happened. Okay? That's what the point is. To not question if the news is simulated. Nobody can wrap their head around it. Like, simulated? Simulated? Well, let's put it this way. If your neighbor shoots his wife, it's probably going to make the local news for a day. Okay? Oh, here's a tragic story here in, small town Indiana. Husband shoots wife over domestic dispute, right? And then move on. The national news stories are manufactured. And if any of these local stories ever make the headlines and become a big story, the government spins their wheels because they have to look at it and say, well, what can we tie into? Can we tie in race? Oh, a white guy shot a black. Okay, then we'll put it in the national news because we can say a white guy shot a black guy. And we have racial injustice and racial prejudice. Oh, and we'll do this and we'll do that. The ones that are specific calling cards that you know were designed by them have all these calling cards in them. Oh, the guy shoots himself in the head. He never has what's his motive? Oh, he's anti-ICE. So he's willing to risk his life because he doesn't like ICE, and then he's not even shooting the right people. He can plan this out, and he blows his brains out, right? But he lets you know, hey, I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory because I'm going to use a Sharpie, and I'm going to write anti-ICE on my bullet. And every one of these other shooters, right, writes anti-ICE on their bullet. So the alt-right media is doing this new thing where they're doxing the parents, and this is all part of the game, where they're going through their Facebook and all this other stuff, and then they want to politicize it, right? So Laura Loomer, one of the biggest shills on the planet, the mother of Joshua John, the radical left shooter, tried to assassinate ICE in Dallas today. Instead, ended up killing several illegal alien detainees. Is named Sharon Jan. She's a Democrat who makes social media posts attacking elected officials in Texas, right? Oh, I did a background check on Joshua John, the ICE shooter. His profile picture is now wiped from Facebook, but the background check results reveals Antifa and communist imagery. And they feed this to the conservative hive mind. And they eat this stuff up, and they just get sucked in and sucked in and sucked in. And now after Charlie Kirk, they're just waiting for more. They're waiting for more. And this is going to lead not to the civil war you envision. There's not going to be Democrats and conservatives holding guns in the street, fighting each other to the death. It's going to lead to red and blue states. There's going to be two separate governments running in this country. A conservative government and a Democrat government with different rules, different laws, and they're going to make it so that you can't live in the state with the opposite ideology. That's the point. You might sit there and go, well, I'm not going to move. I don't care about a lot of this stuff. Yeah, well, you will move when they tell you have to get vaccinated. And they say, look, you can't have a job unless you're vaccinated, and your kids have to get it too. Then you go, oh my gosh, you're going to make me kill my kids or give my kids autism? All right, I guess we're going to have to move. And for the other side, when they say gays can't get married in conservative states, all of a sudden it's the huge issue again, right? Working people up about who can get married. Who cares? Who cares? Let God judge at the end of the day if these people get married. Now, if they want misery the rest of their lives, go for it. Oh, it's a topic, right? Of course it's a topic, because then gay people won't move to conservative states, and then people who support them go, well, I can't live in a conservative state. I can't support that. And of course, we know the abortion thing, bringing up Roe v. Wade again, is all for that as well. There's going to be two separate states. And don't forget, the conservatives are going to get led to these states that are just going to be direct hits for weaponized weather modification. So more of this stuff, mom of anti-guns, Dallas Knight. Oh, the mom is just all against guns. She's threatening people online. Oh, check out who she follows. This is more stuff that's out there. Mom of Joshua John. Check out her followers. Oh, boy. Her followers are Democrat. Oh, and here's the sister. Whole collection of mugshots. These are criminals. This is a family of Democrats. They're terrorists. They're terrorists. They're terrorists. We can't live with them anymore. And none of these people can remember yesterday. They were the same thing was being done to conservatives for 4 years with the insurrection. You had the president on the television saying was domestic terror threats. Conservatives are domestic terrorists. And those people are going nuts. They're like, what did we do? Why is the president inciting hate? Well, why are you doing it now? Because you're in the seesaw effect. They're working you into a psychosis, right? So you've got all the talking heads, all the shills, Tim Pool, terror attack on ISIS, MAGA demand, Trump arrest leftists. They want them arrested now, right? Nobody questioning if this was an act, if this was a psyop, when the majority of the news is a psyop. And they just work these people in. And then you see how unhinged these people are. These people are completely lost. Most of these conservatives at one point were getting close to an awakening. And now you're seeing the Democrats out there saying that these events are staged. Oh, the same people who said that stuff is insane. How could you question if these events are staged? Now they're saying that the events are staged, right? Isn't that interesting? Same people who are pro-Palestine, right? How many years did I deal with all of those people who were like, this guy's an anti-Semite? Why? Because I was exposing some of these books like the Talmud and exposing how they're not who they claim to be, and everybody with common sense should know that, and how the state of Israel is formed. Oh, now all those people are being labeled as anti-Semitic because they don't support Israel, right? You don't see them going back over going, oh man, my bad about that. We got to figure this out. This isn't good. What's going on? No, they just remain in the psychosis, and it just goes back and forth. So lib terrorists, right? These are the headlines that you even have pictures out there of the alleged shooter's sister now being called a furry. They're tying furries into all this stuff because the supposed shooter Tyler Robinson in the Charlie Kirk event had a roommate that he supposedly was in a relationship with that dressed up as a furry. So furries are getting dragged into it with the trannies as well. I mean, it's a charade. It is an absolute charade. But how about just some of these coincidences we'll play? The name itself could not be faker. Nobody goes, it's a pretty fake name. Right? All these people have these Jane Doe, John Doe, George Glass names. The headlines, left hate leads to murder. That's the narrative that's out there. Right? And then you get the elevator thing, which is just icing on the cake. I mean, the guy's putting maps on his car, which again, that's the mental health tie-in. That's always going to be a theme. Whether it's trans or he was reading conspiracies online, they're going to start labeling it. They're working you. They're planting seeds every time for a flip of the switch, where they put in a Democrat president or whatever happens in 2028, and they go, yeah, we don't think trans people have mental health problems. We think conspiracy theorists do. All these stories that we've heard say that these people question the news and that's so they're really in a different planet. When the reality is everybody else is in a different planet, in a different reality, I should say, right? Because no one's living on planet. We all know that, but they're living in a different reality. Anybody who's stuck in the left, right? Because again, that quote, we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. So on top of all that, what a coinky-dink, right? That the actual father of the shooter works for the same company for 36 years, which is 36, by the way, 36 years, called Cone. And Cone is the ones who do the escalators at the United Nations in New York, and Donald Trump's escalator didn't work, and everybody in the media is making a big deal about it. It's not like the escalator didn't work, and Trump just walked around it, and nobody said anything. It's a main story in the news, Escalator Gate. Holy moly. And none of these people can pull themselves down and say, hey, we're getting worked, we're getting played. Oh, you're getting played all right. You're getting played deep into the psychosis. And the government's going to get what they want at the end of the day. Because the people will do what they're told. Because they'll think they're doing it out of free will. They won't realize the government led them to this division. They've led them to not want to be in the same room as somebody who votes different. Family members don't speak to each other over this ridiculous crap with politics. And they did all this stuff by design. They brought back Roe v. Wade. They put all these stories out there about gays and not being, gays can't get a wedding cake because the Christian bakery doesn't want to sell it to them. I mean, it's one thing after the next. And it never stops. It's just another day and another psyop.